Hello everyone, my name is Jennifer and welcome to Best Kept Plans. Today's video is going to be a reading recap for August 2024. If you're interested in seeing what books I read last month, please stick around. I was just recording for like at least 5 minutes, not realizing that I wasn't actually recording. So this video is off to a great start. This is going to be my August 2024 reading recap. As usual, I will be referencing my Archer and Olive Sarah Cray journal, which is my reading journal. This is where I keep track of all of the books that I read throughout the year. And let's just dive right into it. The first book that I read in August, I actually started at the end of July, and that is Reckless by Lauren Roberts. I was very much looking forward to reading this book. I read Powerless at the beginning of this year. It's actually the first book I read in 2024. Really enjoyed it. Did really like the little novella Powerful, and so I was very eager to see what Lauren Roberts was going to come up with for this book. I've definitely heard some mixed views on this one, but I will say that I think considering where the story left off and needed to go in this book, Lauren Roberts did a really great job with the plot. I found it to be interesting. I found it to be exciting. I liked the changing dynamic between our two main characters and how that played out. I also really liked the little tidbits of our new king that we got in this one, which obviously ended up leading to quite a shocking ending. Not for me as good as Powerless, but still very good. I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I ended up picking up was an ARC that I got digitally through NetGalley, and that is Primetime Romance by Kate Robb. This is my first time reading a Kate Robb book. I was actually on vacation when I read this. I was in Canada, and this book takes place in Canada, at least for part of it. This is a romance, but it also has like magical realism in it. This book was also kind of a love letter to late 90s, early 2000s television and popular media, which I thoroughly enjoyed. There was little bits of Dawson's Creek, specifically Pacey Witter. There was little bits of Buffy the Vampire Slayer in here. It was just so much fun, and I really enjoyed it. I loved our male main character. I liked our female main character. I thought that the way that they came together was fun, and I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars. I believe this book came out just a few days ago, September 3rd, so highly recommend picking it up. As I was still on vacation, I definitely wanted to lean more towards romances, and so I just kind of flipped through Kindle Unlimited and decided to pick up a book that I've been wanting to pick up for a while, and that is Off to the Races by Elsie Silver. These are the old covers that you used to be able to get off of Amazon. I did pick these up before you couldn't get them anymore, just because I wanted to have them. I actually think the covers are very pretty. These are now being traditionally published, so you can find them in bookstores. This is a series that came before Chestnut Springs. It's her first series that she wrote. It does involve horses, but it's very different. It's all about racing and not so much like ranch life. I thought I don't know, I guess there was a little bit of like a grumpiness at first, but it wasn't too extreme, which sometimes that extreme grumpy nature that our male main characters can have can be a little bit off-putting to me, but I thought this was done well. I liked the relationship building here. I enjoyed our female main character for sure. And yeah, I just thoroughly enjoyed this. I loved the atmosphere that it built. I love the way that it dedicated some time to some background characters that we're hopefully going to meet in future books. And I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars. Because I was still on vacation, I thought that it would be best for me to just continue with the Gold Rush Ranch series from Elsie Silver. So I ended up picking up a photo finish. This one was one I was definitely very eager and excited for because we have a female main character who is the sister of the brothers we get to know in the Chestnut Springs series. So it was really nice, having already read Chestnut Springs, to finally learn more about their sister from having her as a main character in this book. And I liked this one. I liked this one a lot. I did like the personal growth of our female main character in this book, about how she was really pushing herself to be the best that she could be at her craft, at her profession. And that was like a very nice part of this story, in conjunction with the romance. I did enjoy the romance. This one I thought was also kind of steamy, which in a good way. I liked it. And I ended up giving this 4.5 out of 5 stars. Definitely makes me want to continue with this Gold Rush Ranch series, but I have not read another book in the series yet. After having read a photo finish, I decided to pick up another arc. And I think I was still on vacation when I picked this up, but I didn't finish it until I got home. And that book is Can't Help Falling in Love by Sophie Sullivan. This is the first Sophie Sullivan book I have ever read. And let me tell you, I am so glad that I got the digital arc for this, because I thoroughly enjoyed this. This one, it reminds me of kind of a Sarah Adams-esque kind of book. And I can't believe I haven't discovered Sophie Sullivan yet, or read any of her books up until this point, because it just, everything about it worked for me. I really loved our main characters. I thought that their meet cute and like the instant nature of their relationship could have very much leaned into insta love, which I am not a fan of, but it was really because of Sophie Sullivan's writing that didn't happen, that she still made it seem as if these people were building a true and real and honest and deep relationship, even though they very obviously had an immediate attraction towards each other. I liked our side characters. I heard that one of them is going to be the main character in her next book, which is very exciting. And yeah, this just worked for me. It just worked for me. I think if you're in the mood for a lighter romance that's funny but sweet but emotional, this is the one for you. I ended up giving this 4.5 out of 5 stars. After reading Can't Help Falling in Love, I definitely wanted to dive into a different genre. I had read several romances in a row and I needed something different. So I decided to pick up a book that I was beyond excited to receive a digital arc for, and that is Rebel Witch by Kristen Ciccarelli. This is the sequel to Heartless Hunter. I loved Heartless Hunter. I thought it was done so well. So diving into this, I was beyond excited. Like, I was so excited to be able to read this book. And unfortunately, I have to say, I was a little bit disappointed in the outcome. I think for this one, it just didn't focus on the right things. This is a duology, and so knowing that this story was going to finish off with this book, I really needed there to be more focus on the details of how we get from point A to point B, and less focus on the back and forth nature of the romantic relationship. I think it tried to do too much with the romance at the expense of the plot, and I think that when plot is still very important to the story, you're gonna cheapen your product by not giving it the attention that it deserves. I do like the overarching plot, the overarching story for our main characters, but again, it was the details that just really didn't sell it in the right way. And because of that, I ended up giving it 3.5 out of 5 stars. I do think if you read Heartless Hunter and you really loved it, it is absolutely worth reading the sequel to finish the story. I just was disappointed in the way it was done. Next, I decided to dive into something different, a genre that I definitely don't pick up very often, but one that is on my 24 books in 2024. This has been on several TBRs this year, and I just haven't gotten around to it, and that is Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. This one was a highly interesting and entertaining read. I am so glad that I finally got around to reading it. I really enjoyed this. It is disturbing at times. It is entertaining at times. It makes you want to dive into the pages and tear our character to shreds at times. It is so thoroughly enjoyable in a warped kind of way, and it's highly worth the read. So if you haven't read it yet, I definitely recommend it. I didn't get 5-star feelings from it, but I definitely think it's an incredibly well-written piece of literature, and I love the way in which it talks about the literary world and the world of publishing. And yeah, read it, do it, it's worth it. 4.5 out of 5 stars. Next, I decided to read another book that was on my 24 books in 2024, one that I have been so intimidated to start and to get into, but one that I've been wanting to get into for a really long time. I had a really great experience reading The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. I thought this was such a fun book. This is a fantasy, but it's very much an adventure story, and it just takes us through the adventures of Bilbo and the interesting characters he's traveling with, but also the people that he meets along the way and the chaos that they get into. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was written in a fun way, in an intriguing way, in an interesting way, and it definitely made me want to continue on and read the Lord of the Rings trilogy for sure. I'm not sure when I'm going to get to those books, but I love the world building in here, and I definitely want to dive into it even more. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. After having read The Hobbit, I decided to switch courses again and pick up something that was not on my TBR, but was a book that I really wanted to get to this month, because I kind of created this little Agatha Christie reading challenge for myself this year. I had purchased some really beautiful copies of some Agatha Christie books from Blackwell's, and they were each based off of a different season, and I thought it would be really interesting to try and read all 4 of them this year during those respective seasons. So with August being like the last full month of summer, I wanted to pick up Midsummer Mysteries. Check out how beautiful that cover is. It's stunning. This is a collection of stories from Agatha Christie, and I was very much looking forward to picking it up. There was one short story in here in particular that I was really excited for, and that was Death on the Nile, which is a story of hers that I have definitely heard of. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was fun. I always think her books are fun, and I did give it 3.5 out of 5 stars. I always think these are worth the read. I'm excited to read the collection for fall and finish out that challenge for myself. The next book that I picked up was one that I was not anticipating reading this year. It's a book that I've heard about a lot. I've heard amazing things about it. I've always been intrigued by it, but I've also always been a little scared to dive in because it is a memoir, and I'm not the biggest fan of nonfiction, and I specifically have challenges with memoirs, but my department at work has a book club, and a lot of times I will read the book for book club but not actually attend the discussion dinner. But one of the residents that I work with saw me and said, "You have to read the book club book this month. You have to come to the dinner. It's next week." And the book is Crying in H-Bar by Michelle Zauner. I did actually very much enjoy this story. I thought it was really interesting. I thought it delved into some complicated and difficult and emotional topics. I thought that the way that our main character described how her mother showed love was super interesting. I thought that the way she talked about assimilation into American culture and wanting to feel American at points in her life, and then longing for that connection to her Korean heritage was incredibly interesting, and something that I've definitely seen a lot in my own family, having parents who came to this country in the 1950s at a time where I think assimilation was very important for a lot of immigrants. I loved the discussions around food and how important food can be to individual culture, but how it can also be a really interesting gateway into communication between cultures. And I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars. Really enjoyed this, and I'm so glad that I ended up reading it. After crying in Mart, I decided to listen to something that I had been eagerly awaiting. I have listened to all of the books in the Love Light Farms series. I haven't actually physically read any of them, and I was very excited for Business Casual to come out. That is by B.K. Borison. I was able to get this through my library. I liked it. I loved our female main character in here. I liked our male main character in here. I thought they were very sweet. I thought their relationship was very fun. I don't think it's my favorite romance, that's for sure, but I still really enjoyed it, and I'm glad that I read it, and I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I picked up was The Graham Effect by Elle Kennedy. This was my August Instagram challenge book. I was recommended this by Alex at Artsy Reads and Plans. She always recommends me the best books. I had definitely heard about this and was intrigued about it when I heard about it, because it is a spin-off of the Off-Campus series, and I did very much enjoy the Off-Campus series by Elle Kennedy. We are still in that same Briar environment. I really thought our female main character was very interesting. You know, her way of trying to navigate life with a very famous parent, of constantly wanting to fight against the idea that she's gotten where she is because of her last name, and really hoping that her actions and her talent kind of stand on their own. I thought that that was really interesting. I also really loved our male main character and his backstory. He has a very interesting backstory, which was tragic and devastating to learn about, but I just really enjoyed his fight and his push to be the best that he can be, his confidence in himself, but his willingness to continue to grow, for sure. We definitely start out with what's hopefully gonna be a very easy breezy friends with benefits kind of scenario. I did like the way that they built that stronger, deeper romantic connection between the two characters, and overall I just thought this was very enjoyable. I ended up giving it 4.5 out of 5 stars. And then the last book that I read in the month of August was a mystery thriller. I was actually sent this as a digital ARC, but did not get around to reading it before it came out in March, and that is Bye Baby by Carola Lovering. This book was disturbing. I definitely think that people should look up trigger warnings for this one. There are some parts of this book where I just, like, my anxiety was high. I felt sick for our main character, and that was not necessarily what I was expecting to find in here. I thought the way that this book dealt with social media was really interesting, and what we reveal of ourselves through social media to people that we don't know and that we're never gonna know, we're never gonna meet. I thought the way that it dealt with female friendships was really interesting, and how those friendships can change over time, for better or for worse. It was not at all what I was expecting, but in a good way, though at times it was a lot to handle. I actually ended up reading and listening to this at the same time. I did that with a lot of the books that I read this month, but I do think with this one, because of some of the subject matter in here, I had an even more visceral reaction to it because of listening to it as well as reading it on the page. I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars. Definitely really enjoyed it. And that's it for the books that I read in the month of August. In terms of a top 3, I've been trying to think about it. I would say definitely my favorite book that I read in the month of August was Can't Help Falling in Love by Sophie Sullivan. For sure, that was my favorite one that I read. I would say that my second favorite book that I read in the month was Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. And then I think for third, I'd probably put The Graham Effect by Elle in the number 3 slots. And that is it. That is it for my August 2024 reading recap. If you have read any of these books and want to leave some spoiler-free thoughts down below, please don't hesitate to do so. I love chatting with people about books. And as always, everyone, please be safe. Bye-bye.